Gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever heard somebody say, just take baking soda for blood flow, for stamina, for performance, for that part of your life that used to feel automatic? If you have, you need to stop right there. Because this is exactly how men waste months chasing the wrong fix. Not because baking soda is useless, but because using one cheap kitchen ingredient by itself and expecting it to solve a vascular problem is one of the fastest ways to stay disappointed. And what I'm about to tell you may completely change how you think about circulation, stamina, nitric oxide, and male performance after 50. Because the real issue is not what most men think. It's not just age. It's not just testosterone. It's not just getting older. And it's definitely not solved by throwing random powders into water and hoping for a miracle. There is a hidden vascular mechanism most men never hear about. A mechanism involving nitric oxide signaling, endothelial stress, blood vessel responsiveness, oxygen delivery, and cellular energy production. And when this mechanism starts to break down, you feel it. You feel it in your workouts. You feel it in your recovery. You feel it in your breathing. You feel it in your confidence. And yes, you feel it in the bedroom. In this video, I'm going to show you why baking soda alone is incomplete, why so many men misunderstand what blood flow really depends on, and what actually needs to happen if you want better circulation, stronger response, longer stamina, and more reliable performance. Stay with me, because once you understand the real mechanism, you'll never look at quick fixes the same way again. Here's the false belief. Most men think blood flow problems begin when blood stops moving. Wrong. Blood flow problems often begin before the flow drops. They begin when the lining of the blood vessels, the endothelium, becomes less responsive. They begin when nitric oxide gets produced less efficiently or destroyed too quickly. They begin when the smooth muscle surrounding the vessels stops responding with the same speed, precision, and power it had years earlier. And that is why so many men get confused. Because on the outside, it feels like a performance problem. But underneath, it's often a vascular signaling problem, a responsiveness problem, a delivery problem, a cellular energy problem. That's why a man can still look strong, still feel mentally sharp, still be active, still want intimacy, and yet notice something is off. The reaction is slower. The response is less reliable. The stamina fades faster. The confidence is not what it used to be. So he starts looking for a shortcut, a powder, a pill, a stimulant, a kitchen hack. And that's where the mistake begins. Because when you target only one piece of the puzzle, you don't get transformation. You get noise. Maybe a temporary sensation. Maybe a placebo. Maybe a small bump. But not real restoration. Not because your body is broken, but because the mechanism is more sophisticated than people realize. Let's get honest. A lot of men over 50 don't feel like they're falling apart. That's not the issue. The issue is more subtle. You notice you're not as explosive, not as quick to respond, not as durable under pressure, not as steady under fatigue, not as resilient when the moment matters. You may still perform, but it takes more effort, more time, more mental work, more recovery. And when blood flow is not optimized, everything feels slightly harder than it should. The body doesn't switch on as cleanly. The muscles feel flatter. The pump feels weaker. The breathing gets heavier sooner. The recovery takes longer. The arousal response feels less automatic. The quality of the response feels less stable. The endurance is less dependable. That creates a dangerous cycle, because then the mind gets involved. You start thinking, you start monitoring, you start anticipating disappointment. You start forcing what used to happen naturally. And the more force you use, the worse it gets. Why? Because you cannot outthink a vascular problem. You cannot bully a nitric oxide problem. You cannot mentally override endothelial dysfunction. If the blood vessels are not relaxing properly, if oxygen delivery is compromised, if smooth muscle response is inefficient, if mitochondrial energy output is underperforming, then your body will feel slower, weaker, and less reliable no matter how badly you want the result. That is the hidden cause, not just age, declining vascular responsiveness. Now let's talk science, but in plain English. Inside your arteries and capillaries is a thin, intelligent layer of cells called the endothelium. This layer is not passive, it is active. It senses pressure. It senses stress. It senses chemistry. It helps regulate blood vessel tone. And one of its most important jobs is helping generate nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the signal that tells blood vessels to relax. Relaxed vessels open wider. Wider vessels improve circulation. Better circulation improves oxygen delivery. Better oxygen delivery improves performance. That matters in the gym. It matters in daily energy. It matters in recovery. And yes, it matters in erectile response. But nitric oxide is fragile. It can be reduced by oxidative stress. It can be undermined by poor endothelial health. It can be outpaced by inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, poor sleep, inactivity, excess visceral fat, insulin resistance, and vascular stiffness. So when men say, "I just need more blood flow," what they often really mean is this: I need my vascular system to signal better, relax faster, deliver more oxygen, and sustain output longer. That is a completely different conversation. And this is where old solutions fall apart, because most solutions only hit one angle. One ingredient for nitric oxide, one stimulant for sensation, one trick for pH. One shortcut for arousal, one pre-workout for energy, but the body doesn't operate in isolated compartments. Blood flow is not just chemistry. It's chemistry plus signaling, plus vessel flexibility, plus smooth muscle responsiveness, plus red blood cell flow dynamics, plus mitochondrial energy. That is why incomplete solutions stay incomplete. Now let's talk directly about baking soda. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. In sports settings, sodium bicarbonate has been studied mainly for its role as a buffer, meaning under certain conditions, it can help the body deal with acid load during intense exertion. That's real. But here is what men get wrong. They hear one real thing, then turn it into a fantasy. They hear buffer, then they assume better circulation. Then they assume better performance. Then they assume better erections. Then they assume problem solved. No, that leap is where people lose the plot. Because buffering one aspect of physiology is not the same as restoring the entire vascular performance chain. Not the same as improving endothelial function. Not the same as restoring nitric oxide balance. Not the same as improving arterial flexibility. Not the same as upgrading oxygen delivery. Not the same as improving mitochondrial output. Not the same as fixing the hidden biological bottleneck. So yes, baking soda may affect one narrow physiological variable in some contexts. But alone, it is still incomplete, very incomplete. And in some men, using it casually can backfire. Too much sodium, digestive discomfort, bloating, reflux, blood pressure concerns, kidney-related concerns, medication interactions. This is why I want to be crystal clear. The issue is not that men are searching for help. The issue is that they're being taught to treat a complex vascular performance system like it's a kitchen experiment. That is not optimization. That is gambling. So what should you mix baking soda with? Not another powder. The answer is this. You mix it with truth. You mix it with a complete mechanism. You stop chasing one-dimensional hacks and start supporting what I call the dual-phase vascular activation pathway. Remember that phrase, because this is where the real transformation begins. The dual-phase vascular activation pathway has two sides. Phase 1, vascular signaling. This is where nitric oxide production, endothelial responsiveness, oxidative stress control, and smooth muscle relaxation all matter. If this phase is weak, the vessels do not open the way they should. Phase 2, cellular delivery and energy. This is where blood flow quality, oxygen transport, red blood cell flexibility, tissue perfusion, and mitochondrial energy production matter. If this phase is weak, the body cannot sustain the response, even if the signal begins properly. That is the missing link. Most men are trying to amplify the signal without fixing delivery. Or they're trying to force delivery without restoring signaling. Neither works well for long. You need both. You need vascular activation and cellular support. Not hype. Not mystery powder. Not forced stimulation. Not random internet folklore. A complete system. That is the new mechanism. And once you understand that, the path becomes much clearer. Now let's talk evidence, because this is where credibility matters. If you look across modern cardiovascular and exercise physiology research, the pattern is consistent. Better vascular health is associated with better endothelial function. Better endothelial function supports nitric oxide signaling. Better nitric oxide signaling supports vessel dilation and circulation. Better circulation improves oxygen delivery and tissue performance. At the same time, research repeatedly shows that oxidative stress, metabolic dysfunction, poor fitness, poor sleep, insulin resistance, central obesity, sedentary behavior, and chronic cardiovascular strain all damage this system. In other words, male performance is often not an isolated bedroom issue. It is an early vascular issue. That's why doctors who understand the science often look at erectile changes as a broader circulation signal, not just a sex problem, a vascular warning light. And that should wake men up, because the goal is not simply to create a temporary event. The goal is to improve the underlying physiology that makes strong response possible in the first place. Science also points to several evidence-based support areas. Nitric oxide precursor nutrition, exercise that improves endothelial function, resistance training that improves insulin sensitivity, cardiovascular training that improves vascular elasticity, weight reduction when visceral fat is high, sleep restoration, blood pressure control, smoking cessation, better glucose control, stress reduction, and in some cases, medical evaluation for hormones, cardiovascular risk, and medication side effects. That is what real proof looks like. Not one isolated powder. A pattern, a system, a mechanism backed by physiology, not fantasy. When you support the vascular system the right way, the difference is not abstract. You feel it. You feel cleaner circulation. You feel a stronger pump. You feel more drive during exertion. You feel less early drop-off. You feel more stable breathing. You feel stronger recovery. You feel more consistent response when the moment matters. And perhaps most importantly, you stop feeling like your body is hesitating. That hesitation is what frustrates men. Not just weaker output, but inconsistency. One day it works. The next day it doesn't. One moment you feel ready. The next moment you lose momentum. That uncertainty chips away at confidence fast. But when vascular signaling improves, when oxygen delivery improves, when endothelial function improves, when cellular energy becomes more dependable, your body starts feeling cooperative again. Not forced, not whipped into action, not artificially propped up. Responsive, reliable, stronger, longer lasting, more stable. That is what men are really after. Not a trick. A return to functional power. The kind you can feel in your workouts, your walking pace, your stair climbing, your morning energy, your training capacity, your recovery, and your intimate life. Real performance is whole body performance. And once the vascular system starts improving, the benefits do not stay in one room. They spill into everything. Now let me give you the real formula. Not a kitchen formula. A vascular restoration formula. Because precision still matters. A lot. Here it is. Step 1. Stop treating symptoms like isolated events. If your response, stamina, or circulation has noticeably declined, do not assume it is just age. Treat it as useful information. Your body is telling you something. Listen. Step 2. Get the vascular basics checked. Know your blood pressure. Know your fasting glucose or A1C. Know your waistline trend. Know your sleep quality. Know what medications you take. Know whether you snore, wake exhausted, or crash after meals. Know whether your issue is occasional, progressive, or persistent. That alone puts you ahead of most men. Step 3. Build nitric oxide support naturally. Focus on nitrate-rich vegetables, especially leafy greens and beets. Support oral health without destroying the entire oral microbiome with constant harsh antiseptic mouthwash, because that pathway matters for nitric oxide conversion. Hydrate properly. Move daily. Walk after meals. Train your legs. Train your heart. Train your vascular system. Step 4. Improve endothelial function. This is where consistency wins. Brisk walking. Zone 2 cardio, resistance training, better sleep, lower waist circumference, lower blood sugar spikes, less smoking, less alcohol overload, less processed food, more recovery. That is endothelial medicine in real life. Step 5. Support mitochondrial energy. Because blood flow is only part of the story. Cells need energy to respond. Prioritize protein, micronutrient density, strength training, recovery days, sleep depth, metabolic health. Low energy cells create low quality performance. Step 6. Use medical support when appropriate. For some men, lifestyle work is enough. For others, it isn't. If there is persistent decline, chest symptoms, diabetes, major blood pressure issues, significant obesity, known cardiovascular disease, or ongoing erectile dysfunction, get evaluated. Because sometimes the most masculine move is not guessing. It is getting precise. That is the real formula. Simple, specific, powerful, repeatable. And unlike internet powder tricks, it actually respects how the body works. Now I know what some men are thinking. Fine, but I wanted something fast. I understand that. Every man wants to feel a difference fast, but fast without truth is how men stay stuck. Because the body does not reward random inputs forever. It rewards mechanisms. And when you support the right mechanism, speed often follows anyway. Another objection. Are you saying baking soda does nothing? No, I'm saying it is not a complete vascular strategy, and using it casually as a standalone fix for circulation or performance is a mistake. Big difference. Another one. I don't want medications. That's your choice, and for some men, lifestyle and vascular restoration can help significantly. But refusing to look at your blood pressure, glucose, sleep, weight, or cardiovascular health while chasing powders online is not independence. It's avoidance. Another objection. I'm too old for this to change. False. Men improve vascular function, fitness, insulin sensitivity, body composition, and performance markers later in life all the time. Not by magic, by biology. The body is adaptable when you give it the right conditions. Another one. I'm embarrassed to talk about it. That is exactly why this gets worse than it needs to. Because men stay silent while the problem progresses. Listen carefully. A decline in erectile response or exercise stamina can be one of the earliest visible signs that your vascular system needs attention. That is not shameful. That is useful. That is feedback. And the sooner you treat it as data instead of identity, the faster you can do something about it. Finally, I just wanted a natural solution. Good. Then define natural correctly. Natural does not mean random. Natural does not mean safe for everyone. Natural does not mean evidence-free. Natural should mean this: working with the body's own vascular pathways in a way that is intelligent, measured, and sustainable. That is the standard, not folklore. So let's bring this home. The real message is not merely, never use baking soda alone. The deeper message is this: never use a one-dimensional fix for a multi-dimensional performance problem. Because male performance is not built on one signal. It is built on blood flow, nitric oxide, endothelial health, smooth muscle responsiveness, oxygen delivery, cellular energy, metabolic stability, recovery, confidence, and long-term vascular resilience. That is the game. And when you stop chasing isolated tricks and start building that system, something powerful happens. You stop feeling fragile. You stop feeling dependent on timing, luck, or stimulation. You stop negotiating with your own body. Instead, you feel more stable, more responsive, more durable, more physically present, more capable under pressure, more in command of your energy, more in command of your performance, more in command of your confidence. And that goes far beyond the bedroom. Because the same vascular health that helps intimate performance helps daily vitality. It helps training. It helps recovery. It helps endurance. It helps mental sharpness. It helps circulation. It helps longevity. It helps the body feel younger because the body is functioning better. That is the real win. Not a gimmick. Not a one-night trick. A stronger circulatory system. A more responsive body. A better oxygen delivery engine. A calmer, more efficient vascular network. A more powerful foundation for energy, stamina, and confidence. So no, gentlemen, do not put your faith in baking soda alone, and do not put your future in the hands of casual internet chemistry. Put your focus where it belongs, on the hidden mechanism, on vascular truth, on endothelial function, on nitric oxide protection, on cellular energy, on metabolic control, on sustainable performance. Because when those pieces come together, the result is not forced stimulation. It is optimized physiology, not temporary excitement, but dependable function, not panic-driven action, but restored confidence, not fake power, but real capability. And that is the kind of transformation a man can feel everywhere, in his steps, in his breathing, in his training, in his recovery, in his presence, in his performance, in his life. That is the vascular explosion that actually matters.